couple of weeks, Gordon. I haven't seen you in a few weeks, and are you doing well?
I am doing well, and you've been traveling the Far East, and how's that going?
Yeah,
How that
Gordon,
went?
I was in Singapore in your neck of the wood for exactly 1 hour. Then I went to Penang. Then from that point, from Penang, I went straight to Jakarta. And so it was 9 days of traveling like crazy, meeting with different people, come home to 4 days of no power because we had a massive storm. And so there was
Oh,
no electricity, no hot water, no refrigerator, no air conditioning, or Wi Fi. So couldn't
oh
get anything
my.
done. And then in the midst of it, I must have eaten something bad in Indonesia because I have stomach issues and I hurt my back somehow on the plane ride home.
Yeah, I used to cover Indonesia, and I would say to myself, you're not an Indonesian. Don't try to do what they do. Just do what a Singaporean would.
Yeah. And so a lot of times the whole thing about the stomach and just the food is very real because if you eat something wrong, it really affects your stomach for a while.
And it affects the mood of the day.
Yeah. Hey, what have you been up to?
Well, aside from being away for golf, I've been back and back to my counseling, a little bit of preparation on some stuff, a project I'm working on. So, yeah, keeping myself busy. But yeah, I had a little bit of an incident in terms of health, and I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah. Are you doing better?
No, it was just a phase that, oh my goodness, I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah. Okay, so golf. Where have you traveled to for golf?
Oh, this time I actually went to somewhere in China, a place called Qingdao. You might not have the beer there, but it's really famous with beer, and it has a long history with Germany. Yeah,
Don't they have a
strangely, and
Qingdao beer?
yes,
Yes, right? Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this is a place of Qingdao beer, and so I was there in
Oh,
Qingdao, and it's actually a seaside city. And we went to a place called Weihai, which is 3 hours away from Qingdao, and that's where we played our golf. And it's really nice weather,
yeah.
perfect golf weather.
How is the weather in Singapore? Because I was just there at the airport for about an hour, 15 minutes, in and out. I just thought it was raining.
You 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 know what? When you were in Singapore, you probably had the artificial Singapore weather, which is what we
Mhm.
most love. But it's
Yeah.
hot and humid out there.
Oh my gosh. And are you going anywhere? Will you be traveling anytime soon?
Yeah, just July. I'll have a trip to KL, Kuala Lumpur,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm surprised you didn't go to Kuala Lumpur. But instead, you went to Penang.
Well, this time a lot of times, Gordon is Research Global has cohorts in Penang and KL, and so a
Mhm.
lot of times the Penang folks said, "Hey, look, you were always in KL. Would you be able to consider being in Penang?"
Ah, that's nice. That's nice. My wife loves Penang much more than KL. I think I'm good with both.
Yeah. The one thing I was surprised, I was at the Penang airport of all things. I see a Chicago Garrett's popcorn. Of all things, I see a Garrett's popcorn.
Garrett popcorn pops up everywhere.
I am surprised. I thought it was a Chicago thing, but I guess it's very
No,
popular around
no,
the
it's very
world.
popular in Singapore too.
Yeah. Now, Singapore, I would totally understand, but the Penang of all places?
It's not. It's not. It's quite expensive actually for a
Oh, yeah.
Malaysian. Yeah,
Gordon, to the point where it's so expensive, I don't even buy it in Chicago.
I don't buy it in Singapore.
Yeah, but I see it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, today, we're going to talk about the topic actually, in some sense, I actually probably struggle with all the time is the best leaders embrace the role of supporting character. The best leaders embrace the role of supporting character. And so, one of the things that it talks about is main character energy, the self centered social media trend applied to leadership. When leaders adopt it, everyone suffers. What does that mean?
Wow. So, well, thanks for bringing up this article because when I read it, I'm going like, oh, this is interesting. It never occurred to me, but there are founder owners of enterprises whose personality is so big, they actually dominate the culture, perhaps, and the character of the firm. And everyone who works for this company just goes, okay, that's the only way to do things here.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I totally understand in a small little way because suddenly Resource Global has gotten bigger than it ever could be, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't, if I could sit here and confuse myself to say, wow, look at how great I am. Look at
Mm.
what I've done. And as a result, I made this thing happen. If you confuse yourself and make you the focus of what you're doing without appreciating your team members, you could make it all about you. And too often, I bet you a lot of times, the founders, especially the unicorn, the big ones, all of those things suddenly think that they're more better than they really are without appreciating the people that got them there.
Yeah, no, no. I think absolutely. It's so easy to be, you know, flattered by your success that you think that whatever you call is the right thing to do.
Yeah, it talks about this whole thing of naive realism. How would you describe a naive realism?
But I think it's quite difficult to understand in the sense that we think, I guess, my best understanding of naive realism is a very narrow view of what reality is. And so you just kind of believe that's it.
Yeah, and but at the same time, I will probably say some of the founders, and we've met them, whether it's in Singapore, you see that a lot in Indonesia, Malaysia, and all that other stuff. Some of the founders who built a successful company or organization did get by with their skills. They did really well, right? They did a really good job. But yet, at the same time, if you keep getting consumed about yourself, you become naive to the fact that you think you're really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of lose other perspectives, and the only perspective they hold is theirs. And so, and I think they kind of shut down on other people's perspectives.
Yeah. I love what it says. It says leaders who cast themselves as main characters celebrate naive realism instead of resisting it. That hurts their teams. Employees of this culture start experiencing lower trust and perform more poorly. When leaders see themselves as the main character, the stories around them quickly fall apart. And probably because a lot of times nobody wants to work in this situation. Nobody wants to work in this environment.
Yeah, I guess it can kind of creep on the founder, in the sense that, well, most founders are really talented and smart people, and so I think it's interesting because their smartness, the intelligence, begins to dominate, and people around them begins to kind of like, oh, okay, so you're the smart guy. We'll try it your way. We'll try it your way. And after a while, it's just only his way or her
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Now, Gordon, let me say this a little bit because you and I operate in the church world. I actually have seen this type, not as bad as organizations and companies. I've seen it bad as churches because many of these churches, because of their really good preaching skills, suddenly people are coming in the seats. And now they're starting thinking, I'm good. People are coming because I'm good. And then in the church, compared to when you take membership class, you sit there and you have to say, I submit to the authority of the pastor and elders. So not only are you geared and expected to submit, but if you're really good, you start realizing you're really, really good. That's when
Yeah.
you get in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I would like this article's use of the word main character. Yes, there are many characters in an organization, but this guy is like they're almost doing a solo act.
Yeah. But then yeah, at the same time, social media actually makes it worse. What do you
Mhm.
think about that? How do you think it makes it worse?
I think it makes it worse in magnifying the degree, or blowing up the capacity or capability of this person, which is again unreal, and therefore naive realism kind of sets in and creeps in, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But yet at the same time, Gordon, here's my frustration, right? Social media is needed now in this day and age to like for instance, in order you can't go and put an ad in the newspaper. Maybe you could depend on word of mouth, but a lot of times it's you depend on things like social media to help you with your coaching business, to continue to bring awareness for Resource Global. So you need social media. But yet at the same time, it borders to the very fact that sometimes if you have too much social media, you start believing in who you are with the number of hits, the number of people who follow you, all of those things. So eventually, if you're not careful of it, it becomes a danger to what you do.
Exactly, exactly. And I think social media, unfortunately, like most of marketing, tends to focus on the product, and the main character becomes the product. And so you're kind of marketing the product, right? So
Yeah.
you're marketing the main character.
Or, as this article says, people think they flourish by focusing on themselves. But the opposite is true. We are at our most effective and fulfilled when serving others. What do you think it means by that? What's the logic behind that?
Yeah. So this is kind of very interesting and paradoxical almost, because if you want to feel great about yourself, actually you shouldn't be focusing on yourself. You should be focusing on the people you're helping, because that actually brings meaning, brings purpose, and it brings respect, I think. And so I guess that's the paradox of it all.
Yeah, it talks about this whole thing about supporting character energy. How would you describe that, Gordon?
Wow, supporting character energy. So I think a person works best and works most effectively when they're surrounded with people who uh, work together, and people who kind of synergize. And so I think that if the leader begins to elevate, or make affirm the people around him, yeah, so that makes it a lot more teamworkish.
Yeah, it really means decentering yourself and asking instead how you show up in other people's stories. Did you
Yeah.
ever work for a boss or did you ever experience a leader like that before?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was just whilst you were speaking, I was thinking about, you posted social media about Resource Global, and I love the pictures that you have because they're always team pictures, and it,
Hmm.
it kind of elevates the people around, or centered around the different nodes in Resource Global. So it's nice. And I think that's what this particular article is talking about. That supporting character that you
Yeah.
portray.
Well, the one thing I learned, especially in leadership, is do I ever want to work for a boss who takes credit for everything that they do? Everything that goes well, they take the credit for. But when things don't go well, they blame it on me. I've worked in those situations. I don't want to work in those situations. But what does it mean when you work for a leader who sits there and makes about other people first, who talks about the team, who talks about the success of the team, who talks about the contributions for the team? But when things don't go well, they stand up and take the hit for it. Hey, look, it was my fault. I should have done better. It's the key player, it's the superstar on a soccer team, football team, whatever it is. That when things go well, they start blaming the rest of the team. It's not my fault. All of those things. But when you're the captain of the team, when you're the superstar of the team, I should have tried harder. I made the mistakes. I will do better. That's the type of person that you want to work with. That's the whole thing about decentering other people and really making
Mm.
making it more about your others rather than yourself.
Yeah, so I like the way this article characterizes. It says get aggressively curious, and so when things go wrong, rather than looking at blame, perhaps a great leader takes ownership, takes responsibility of what's going on, and then start to become very curious about what really went wrong. Ask the right questions. So getting aggressively curious is an important thing when things go wrong, and even more important when things go right.
Okay, okay. Then let me ask you a quick question. Why do you think wanting to know what others are thinking and being interested in what they know, why is that such a good sign of leadership?
Well, I think it opens up perspectives. It's kind of showing respect that I'm not the only one who owns all the problems. I'm not the only one who creates all the problems. I also know that you can see problems in a different way from me, and so I think that makes it a little bit better. It may not share the ownership because you've taken it. It may not share the responsibility, but it allows people to participate in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I still remember our mutual friend Dave Evans, who wrote "Designing Your Life," once said to me, "Is purpose is a new currency. Everyone wants purpose in life. They want a purpose in the team, and so when you are naturally curious about who they are, you're giving them purpose. What you're essentially saying is, I don't know everything. I don't even try to know everything, but you do." And so help me to understand what you know because what you know contributes to the team. It gives them a sense of purpose for them to really be able to contribute to the team.
Right. Yeah, and they kind of co-own this stuff. They have co-responsibility, and that makes it a lot more collegial.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then you have the last one, engage in job crafting. What does that mean?
Well, actually, when I first saw this word job crafting, it came as a bit of a surprise because it suggested we're supposed to create our own roles and craft our own jobs. So I read with tremendous curiosity, but they gave a very good example of Amy. I don't know, I can't pronounce that surname, but. This professor actually interviewed janitorial staff at the major hospital, and the way the janitors think about their role and their
Mhm.
responsibility changes the way they approach the job they do.
Yeah, yeah. So, for instance, a lot of times is I let me go back to the church and the volunteer is a lot. I sit through announcements at church, and they always need help for something. All right, they always need volunteers for something, and I'm sitting there. You're guilting everyone to do something as a volunteer. You got to figure out a way to motivate these guys to want to do something, and that means you got to allow them to feel like they have ownership in crafting and designing something that fits their personality and their purpose. Like a janitor. Nobody wants to be a janitor. You're stuck cleaning, but you got to help them create a purpose for why they're doing what they're doing.
Exactly, and that's where I think that this the beauty of this example, because a janitor's job, technically, if you think about it, is cleaning, right? As you
Mhm.
suggested. But actually, when they redefine their role from cleaning to maybe making the whole place better for the patients, and that brings a lot of meaning. Yeah.
Because the key thing is you gotta I think a lot of times, Gordon, is look, I mean, even your job in coaching, you may like it, but some people may hate their job. You gotta give them a purpose for why they're staying. You gotta give them a purpose for why they're gonna put in the hard work. You gotta give them a purpose for all of those things. But that means a lot of times, not only are you curious, but you gotta allow them to craft their own job so that they see their purpose in it.
Yeah, so this is when I think about my wife. My wife always tells me, "I don't understand how you can do this. You can sit down there for an hour listening to people and
Mhm.
their problems. How do you cope with that?" And I'm going like, I really love that because I'm helping someone. And then I
Yeah.
look at her and says, "I can't understand how you can stand in front of a canvas and put paint on canvas, and with all that detail, I'll go cry. It'll drive me crazy." But she says, "Oh no, it brings joy to people." So
Yeah.
yeah.
And every single one of us are wired differently. And so we're created differently. How you and I are created, you may like the coaching, I may not like the coaching. But these days, I'm really into AI and Claude. And I can absorb myself in building things on Claude because I love building things. This is the one thing that has me wired recently, but I may not like managing people. All of us are a little bit different in how we operate.
Yeah, and I'm sure you, with all those building things, was part of this idea of purpose of, I want to make things better.
Yeah, yeah. My goal always, my purpose is how can I build something to make things better? And so everything that I'm building, whether it's Resource Global or something like that, or building into other people, is to make their city better, their community better. That's the one thing that is wired me.
Right, and so your curiosity in Claude and in AI isn't about it's the Claude and AI itself, but how to make things better.
Yeah. So the whole topic is the best leaders embrace the role of supporting character. And note this, I think you'll understand is we have to embrace the role of supporting character, but once in a while, you do need to lead. Once in a while, you got to make the decision. Once in a while, you got to call the shots.
Exactly. Great discussion. I love this.
Yeah, thank you. Hey,
Yeah.
I know we had a little delay today and I got stuck in traffic running. Hey, I would say I fell behind 4 days and no power. Gordon, I had no refrigerator, no stove, no Wi-Fi, no air condition. It was terrible, and no lights or anything. It just put me back for a little couple days.
I can bet that you're feeling very grateful now.
Yeah. Have you I mean, in Singapore, I'm assuming they don't have you ever had 4 days of no power?
Oh, well, been a long, long time ago, probably in my little younger days, but
Yeah.
not, yeah, we've improved a lot.
This was new. I've never had it in city of Chicago. In all my years living in this house, this one is we're entering our 7th year. I've never had power go down for more than a couple hours.
Wow, it's a big one.
Yeah. Well, Tuesdays with Gordon, and I guess we're back next week because I'm home for a
Yeah,
few weeks here, Gordon.
yeah, great. Well, I'll speak to you next week then.
Talk soon.
Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.